I promise we're not sipping sip shine, but all the way from Tennessee, we are joined with Mitch Elsey, National Professional Fishing League Pro, here on the OneCast.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
Welcome back to the OneCast, family, friends, and all the people out there that love talking about fishing. Ben, Pete, how we doing tonight?
Good, man. Doing good.
Yeah?
Doing well.
Doing well?
Upset we're having rain for the next 2 weeks, it seems like, and it prevents some of the fishing, but...
Yeah. I know we need it, though. We definitely need it.
Yeah, we definitely need the rain, and we're getting it here, so we'll find time to get out there. Yeah.
Folks, we have an awesome episode ahead right here, and stay tuned to check out our awesome guests that we have on. But first, head on to OneCastFishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast to save 10% of your checkout. Check out those snagless jigs, those long neck hooks, those weedless net heads. We were swimming some long neck hooks down in Florida. I just got back from Toho, the Kissimmee chain, actually fishing a Help Our Heroes event down there. And we weren't on a speed worm bite, but we were definitely on a frog bite. It was awesome. But head on over to those to the website, get your hands on some of those great products, and send us your fishing pictures. Like, we're really curious to see what kind of giants you're catching. I know Ben's been receiving a lot of good feedback. So head on over and check that out. Also, Pete, go ahead and talk about what you want to talk about real quick.
Yeah, so we've talked about it the last couple of weeks, so we're going to talk about it again here. I'm going to have him on Fishing Fridays, which are coming back, so we're going to have the organizer come on and talk with you all about it. But For His Glory Outdoors is doing a Guardian Classic on Lake Murray. For those of you who don't know, that's in South Carolina. It is a $125 entry fee for the boater. They're going to pair you up with a veteran to fish with. It's random draw unless you have a direct family member. So your brother, son, something like that serves. You guys want to fish it together. When you register, just make note of that, and they'll make sure that you get paired together that way. But taking place down there on September 9th. So it's actually, they do it around September 11th as a memorial deal. Guaranteed $1,000 first place. Veteran big fish $500, and then a captain or the boater big fish $500 guaranteed prize on top of whatever comes in from entry fees. So make sure you check that out if you search For His Glory Outdoors on Facebook. They also have a website. You can get all the information on there. His phone number is on there to register all of that. I'm not going to try to read that out, so you're trying to write it down, but just check it out. It'll also be linked in the description of the podcast, so check that link out, and stay tuned for when we get them on to talk about it, so you can hear the story about how it came to be and how they're helping veterans through fishing.
That's awesome. Ben, you got any opening comments?
No, other than I'm excited to get Mitch on here.
Yep.
I know we're having to talk about it, but I was reading his bio from Florida to up in Michigan, now Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Breadth of fishing experience, and I like this because sometimes we stay a lot of local to North Carolina. We talk a lot of North Carolina fishing. Now we can we got some anglers on here that we can branch off and talk all across the country. So hopefully everyone out there can now get something for their little piece of the country or wherever they're fishing at. So
absolutely, that's the journey this podcast has taken us on, and we couldn't do it without everyone's support. So head on over to all of our media platforms, leave a comment, give us a good review, share with your friends, and without further ado, let's bring on Mitch, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring on Mitch.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on? Mitch Elsey, all the way from Tennessee. You're speaking with us in North Carolina, man. Appreciate you jumping on our show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys letting me get on.
Yeah. So, Mitch, we talked a little bit about you before we brought you on. Ben talked about your breadth of experience from fishing in the north all the way to fishing in the south. So, for everyone's sake, why don't you just go ahead and break it down, introduce yourself, and let us know where you came from.
Yeah, I'm Mitch Elsey. So, I grew up fishing. Fishing runs deep in my veins. Trey, I believe you're from Kalamazoo. My grandpa actually grew up fishing with, or not grew up, but Kevin Van Dam actually started fishing with my grandpa, and they're really good family friends of ours. And when I was about 9, we moved to Florida. I grew up fishing down there. I learned how to throw Senko. Basically, that's all I threw down there. Growing up, Senko and a speed worm. That's all you needed. Cover a lot of water, and when you get bit, you stop and pick it apart. And man, I did that for a long time, throwing swim bait. I started throwing little swim baits, probably about, I don't know, it's probably been about 20 years ago when I got down there and got back up here. And I don't know, I was getting ready to graduate and I was like, I want something different. I want to go back. Let's go back home. So I decided I was going to go move back to Michigan. My parents and my brother all decided they were going to go with us. And we went back up and dude, I got back up north and I fell in love with smallmouth. I mean, I ended up getting, so I got, my first boat was a little Javelin 353. I went up to Charlevoix a few times and man, I just fell in love watching them and catching big, just giant smallmouth. And I ended up buying a Triton TR20 right after that and got into fishing Lake St. Clair and my Traverse Bay. That's the best, like, all time. Like, everyone talks about St. Clair and everything, but man, I tell you, Traverse is probably the best smallmouth fishery, I would say, in the state of Michigan. It's just stacked full of giants. Like this time of year, like I think 2 weeks ago there was a tournament that took 28 pounds to win and 50th place was 20 pounds. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts.
That is ridiculous.
We went up. I took Jake up there 2 weeks ago to fish a tournament with me, and we ended up in second place with like 20 pounds. I had 2 6-pounders that I had on beds that left. Really, we just couldn't get any more in. But yeah, that's pretty much like how I've gotten, like, I guess where I am today. I started it up there, and then I decided I really wanted to pursue this. I started winning a bunch of tournaments up there, and I didn't really want to lock myself into one area and like get good at one thing and one thing only. I know in order to compete at this level, you have to be very diverse, and this river fishing stuff really, like, it confused me. How the fish set up here in TVA. So luckily I work for the power companies, so I got a job as a contractor down here for TVA. Came down and me and my wife moved down, and man, I spent all last year just studying lakes, getting I'm not gonna lie, I got my teeth kicked in almost every tournament last year. I cashed like one check. I think the BFLs I caught one limit and all, man. And then I took the whole off season just to learn the whole lakes, and now I feel pretty confident. Like I can go to Chick, and Chick's got some of the biggest smallmouth in it too. Everyone goes there for largemouth, but man, I remember when I first moved down here, I went there and found a school of smallmouth, and I had in 4 casts I had almost 18 pounds, I want to say. It was just nuts. Like it was 4 casts in a row. I put my rods down. I called my dad. And I'm like, I'm going to win. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm going to win this tournament on smallmouth. And then we got into the meeting the day before, and they're like, just so you guys know, there's a 1 smallmouth rule on Chick. And I was like, oh no.
Oh man.
I was like, so I'm sitting there debating. I caught 1 largemouth all practice. And I'm like, man, do I run all the way to the other dam and hopefully that 8-pounder I caught on a bed still there? Do I go up and catch? I can guarantee myself a 4.5, 5-pound smallmouth, and then try and spend the rest of the day fishing for spots. And so I went up there, threw a drop shot, caught a 4.5-pounder. My co-angler got up there. He hooked into a giant. I don't even know how big this fish was. He was like, it's a rock. And I'm like, dude, it ain't a rock. Your rod's bouncing. I was like, I said, it's a big fish. Hook, let alone, I mean, the hook popped out. We were in 30 foot of water, and the hook came out of the water, and he goes, well, I guess it was just a rock. Or I guess it was a fish.
Yeah, just call it a rock
So,
at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So yeah, and that's pretty much how I got to where I am. Started doing social media about the same time, and really that's where all my deals come from. Like all my sponsorships primarily are social media based. They're not tournament based. I love doing social media. I love pushing products. But I also get that itch for tournament fishing. Like I can't shake it.
You Mitch, you said something that caught my attention. So you move, I know you were at the power company and but you moved specifically to Tennessee just to really get a better experience in different parts of the country for fishing.
Yeah, at the time it was for a mixture of both. So I got a really good job offer, and I knew I was getting to the point where this is something that I really knew that I had a chance in, where I was like, okay, like if I'm going to do this and do it seriously, like I need to learn the TVA lakes. Like I heard how hard they were to fish. And I was like, it shouldn't be that bad. Like I moved to Florida, got a hang of that pretty quick, moved back to Michigan, went out there, started catching 20-pound bags everywhere I went. And I'm like, yeah, it can't be that hard. I get down here, man, I can't even catch fish.
Yep.
And I was like, it's a grinder every day, man. I went to like me and Cherokee don't get along. Like Cherokee's a big smallmouth fishery. I do not get along with Cherokee.
Nah, Cherokee's a bar hole. Not anybody tricky.
What have you found that's been the biggest difference, especially chasing smallmouth in the Tennessee River Valley lakes? What's the biggest difference? That transition from catching those massive bags up north to now trying to do it down, mid part of the country.
It's not really the way they set up, just how fast they move. Like they move a lot up north, but I feel like they move a lot more here. The bait they eat is bigger. They want more like fast moving baits, power baits. They don't want to, like in the summer times. The wintertime, you can throw just about anything at them and they're going to eat it. Drop shot with a small A-rigs, small crankbaits. I got big on Demikian when I moved down here. But I feel like that's probably the biggest thing is they just move a lot more in the current. The way they set up in the current's different. I'm used to fishing just still water, like lakes, and there's not a whole lot of current in the Great Lakes unless the wind's blowing. And fishing here actually made me a better fisherman up north on like I'll say on like the St. Clair River, the Detroit River, stuff like that, because I finally understand how the current, like how they set up in current, and all that other stuff, like the eddies, like the bluff walls. So basically, like up north, we don't have bluff walls; we have seawalls. Mm-hmm. So basically, I started fishing bluff or seawalls the same way I fish the bluff walls here. Next thing I know, I'm getting smoked. Like I'm going out and catching 5-pounders like nothing up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's when they get set up in the rivers. I mean, it's crazy how many fish sit on them seawalls. Like I'll have 100 fish days out there easily, just fishing one stretch of seawall.
So, being from Kalamazoo myself, I always say this, and let me know your opinion on this, but I feel like it's easy to catch fish in the north and harder to catch fish in the south. Would you agree to that or no?
Yeah, 100%. You can go up north, man, and catch. I mean, everyone talks about, like, you're only going to catch limits up there 14 inches, but there's days where, like, I've sat in one spot, like, you're from Kalamazoo, Upper Crooked. Mm-hmm. I grew up on Upper Crooked. We used to have a house there. I fished a lot of tournaments, won a lot of money on that lake, and there's spots out there where I can literally sit. Like I've sat in spots for 2.5 hours before and caught it. Me and my cousin both on the boat fishing a tournament, catching them every cast.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. Like you can go up there any lake, just literally grab a Senko and go catch 20 fish a day easily.
Yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania, so fishing the Great Lakes and when I moved to North Carolina, I still get my teeth kicked in a lot. There's a huge learning curve down here, but like when you talk to guys from here and you talk about fishing the north, and it's like, I here's some pictures from March and you're showing them smallmouth, and they're like, those are all the same fish. I'm like, no, we pulled up on that spawning flat and the 3-pound males were staged on it, and I caught 100 fish that day and never moved the boat. Put it on spot lock, never changed my bait, and caught 100 fish. Well, that don't happen. I'm like, no, it absolutely happens. Like, you have no idea how much different it is. And when Trey and I met, we started talking about the north, and it's like, man, anybody can go up there and catch fish. We have the cover. You can learn how to fish, weed beds and things like that. Come to North Carolina and catch a fish and do well, where we don't have all of that stuff. That's why I think you see a lot of pro anglers. Not that we don't see them from the north, but a lot of the guys grow up like in the Tennessee River area, fishing the chick and that stuff, because they are such diverse and tough fisheries that it makes you a more well-rounded angler. So I think like you having that opportunity for your fishing career along with having a good job that's like a godsend, because I know I fished Cherokee once and I'm with you. Like I'm not that lake they can fill it in for all I care. I was like, man, I'm gonna go out there and catch smallmouth. Like I got this. Nope.
yeah, dude. I was so pumped when I came down. I was like, I'm gonna go whack him on Cherokee. I'm studying Demikian. I'm like, I want to go catch him. Dude, I went out there and all I caught was greenfish. And I'm like, this is dumb. Yep. Like I'm throwing jerk baits over rocks. I'm throwing freaking Demikis. I'm throwing swim baits. I'm throwing drop shots. Can't get bit. And I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. So I went up shallow and started fishing for greenfish. I'm like, I don't know what to do at this point.
It's a weird it's its weird own ecosystem in the way it fishes. The whole Tennessee River Valley, and that's why you see a lot of people struggle on it, even when you get to the elite levels and stuff, just because it is so much different. So I think for you, like that's going to help you, no doubt. You've already said it has, but no matter where you fish in the country, the experiences you get there, because you really can go do anything. We've talked about like being able to go fish ledges, being able to fish shallow, being able to fish grass. You can go drop shot smallies in 30 feet. Like, it's all there. So it's really like a great training ground, if you will, for fishing.
Yeah, it really is, man. It's unbelievable here. Like, you can, like, I know when I first moved down here, like, I had a buddy who was asking me, he's like, what do you look for when you're looking for smallmouth up there? I'm like, rock and grass. I said, if you find rock or grass, I said, you're going to catch fish. And as when we're talking about Cherokee, and I'm like, just tell me where the grass is. And I said, well, we'll find rock around there. And he's like, there is no grass. And I'm like, what do you mean? I never fished a place that there was never any grass before. I'm like, what do you mean there's no grass? He's like, there's absolutely no grass. And I was like, huh. But yeah, it's definitely cool because you can go do it. Like you said, you can go fish anything. You can go fish pads on Gunnersville, go fish grass on Gunnersville, and Chick. You can go fish the ledges anywhere here. Chick, Watts Bar has really good ledges, Douglas, or you can go fish shallow if you want. You can do however you want, and you can. There's so many different opportunities here.
It's interesting as we're having this discussion that just changing the cover and the types of lakes drastically can change how the fish behave. And something I know, Mitch, you talked about the bait's bigger, but something that they don't have in Tennessee River Valley, at least I'm not aware of, or even like in the Midwest. So like White River system that's got smallmouth and largemouth, they don't have the gobies either. So they're all relying on shad or perch or bluegill or crappie to eat, right? And so those bait fish will obviously operate a little bit differently than the gobies. So that's going to help. That's going to alter how those fish set up.
Trey, I don't know if you've got a chance to fish the Great Lakes a whole lot since the gobies took over, because you've been gone for a while, and Mitch can attest to this, but when the gobies showed up, it completely changed the way we fish smallmouth up north. Like, completely changed it, because it quickly became the forage. Used to look for big schools, emerald shiners and things like that, and they're just not there because they're eating gobies.
I wasn't. I have no. I don't have a vast experience fishing the Great Lakes outside of salmon fishing. So every time I would fish up north, it'd be on like Gull Lake or Sherman or Crooked or the Kalamazoo River system, Allegan River and stuff. But and I wanted to get to this. Being from the north, you hear from a lot of guys that get into bass fishing specifically, but we were very much multi-species anglers in the north. It was northern pike and yellow perch and salmon and lake trout. Bass were like, you didn't really care about bass too much. Nobody.
Trash.
Yeah, they were like trash fish. So rewinding to, they were trash fish. What?
No, you just hurt a lot of people's feelings.
Oh, well, they were. I mean, like,
that's honestly how a lot of them places look at them. Like, up in Traverse, like when they're on beds, they don't like the bass fishermen up there. Because Traverse Bay is a big salmon fishery, so the locals will actually go out and catch the bedding smallmouth and keep them and just kill them basically. So that way it tries to keep some of the bass fishermen away. Yeah. Like, I've watched it before, like while we're up there bed fishing or fishing a tournament or just up there fun fishing, you'll watch locals roll up, catch 5 fish, and they're all 4.5, 5, 6 pounders, and just drop them in the box.
Ooh, just to eat them or just to feed them to the bears?
Just to eat them. Just to eat them. It's crazy. I can't believe it. I'm like, people ask me all the time, like, do you eat fish? Or like, what, bass? And I'm like, no. I was like, it takes too long for them to get big.
Yeah.
Especially smallmouth.
Yeah. Well, Pete and his dad have some pretty crazy stories about Lake Erie and the spawn and certain people going up there and just.
Oh yeah, the Amish, man. Yeah, I'll straight call them out.
Yeah. Well, since you said it, the Amish.
They're not listening anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
but you'd be surprised, actually.
Well, if any of you Amish are listening, quit doing that on Prescott Bay. But yeah, no, what Trey's getting at is like, they don't technically have to follow the same game and fish regulations because they're subsistence people. So they're using it to live. So when the smallmouth move up on the spawning flats, man, they'll go up there and fill a 55-gallon trash drum full of every smallmouth they can fit in there. and they're all in a little wooden rowboat. There'll be 67 of them in that joker out there, just jacking them off the beds and chucking them in a trash can to take them home.
I'm just, I'm laughing because I want to see like a YouTube video of subsistence people like going out there and filling trash bags full.
You think subsistence people is like a derogatory term?
No, I just never heard it referred. I just think
I just made it up.
But I like it, But going out there and filling 50-gallon trash bags full of smallmouth is not ideal for us in this room and you in that room.
I think anybody anywhere from a conservation standpoint, yeah.
But I want to talk about young Mitch. Young Mitch grew up in Florida.
Yep, I grew up in Lakeland, Florida.
Right. And
how old are you to begin with?
I just turned 28.
Okay. So you're still you're not nearly as old as we are.
He's older than me. No,
shut up, Pete. So, and I need to throw this out there. I just fished a non-sanctioned event down in Kissimmee Chain, specifically on Toho and some of the other lakes, but we stayed in Toho because of the bad winds. And I appreciate you throwing me some advice. It was unfortunate because the weather was so terrible that we weren't able to get to the location that we talked about. But had we, I think that we would have probably finished a little bit better than we did. So your advice was well received, and I appreciate that. So, but let's talk about young Mitch. All right, so young Mitch grows up fishing in Florida, then he moves to the Grand Rapids area, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you're
Wayland.
Yeah, Wayland. You're fishing the northern stuff. Did you graduate high school up there?
No, I graduated in Florida.
Okay,
so I literally left the day after graduation.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And then
we graduated May 31st and June 1st. I was on the road heading up.
Holy moly!
That's
and then
crazy.
When you got up to Michigan, it wasn't fishing that took you up to Michigan, though, was it?
No, it was more of like I had been away from my family so long. My cousin was like my best friend, and really that's what it was. And I was like, I want to just go back. I was like, I'm tired of living in Florida. I grew up fishing, or I grew up playing football and everything. And I think living down there, the 2-a-days in the middle of July and August really just killed it for me. And I'm like, I want to go back. I want to like go experience all the stuff like ice fishing and stuff like that. And at first it was just going to be me. Like I had a scholarship to go play football at Adrian College up there. They really didn't have anything I wanted to major in. So I'm like, I'm not going to spend like, it was still going to be like $16,000 a year to go. And I'm like, I'm not going to go spend that kind of money for something they don't even have. I want to major in just to play football.
Mm-hmm, sure.
So I was like, I'll get up there, figure something out. Ended up going back and had a buddy get me on the fire department, and I got my fire 1 and 2 up there. And then he was like, hey, do you want a job in the power industry? And I'm like, sure, what do I need? He's like, just come on.
Just come. You just need some rubber gloves and you'll be good, right?
Yeah, really. No, I started off as an overpaid janitor, basically going around clean like the trash plant that's in Grand Rapids, Covana Energy, is where I actually started, and it was a really good experience. It's hard work, but it was really good. I moved up in a couple months, and it helped me get to where I am today.
Custodian, Mitch. Custodian.
Yeah.
So it's funny hearing like Upper Crooked and stuff because I grew up. My family was my mom's family was in Lansing, up in that area. So we would go up there and fish. Most of ours was on Little Crooked Lake. Spent a lot of time fishing that. But we did do some excursions to Upper Crooked and Woodlawn was another lake we fished up that way. That's more towards like Brighton, down that way. It's just weird to hear Crooked because it's been a
long time.
I probably haven't fished Crooked Lake in like 20 years, but had a lot of fun fishing that place, man.
That place is so fun, and there's so many lakes around that area that are so good. Like people don't go fish, like Baseline over in Bloomingdale.
Oh yeah,
Baseline's really good. Like I can go out there and whack, I don't even know, like 20-pound bag almost all the time. Like it's easy fishing there.
See, that's the issue though. Is it is easy. It's easy to fish.
Yeah.
Like I think they say, anywhere you stand in the state of Michigan, you're within 80 miles of a fresh body of water, a good fresh body of water. Yeah. And it's like almost every lake or body of water you pull up to, it's almost like a mini Florida.
It's like 2 miles.
Yeah.
You're never farther than 2 miles away from a body of water.
Is it 2 miles?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Michigan, yeah.
80 miles must be like a Great Lake or something. I don't know.
Who knows?
But
Yeah.
but anyways, like that is the point is like Michigan is a great place to fish. And then so when you were fishing there, were you that young kid that watched like the Bassmaster or the 150s or whatever? Were you that traditional young kid that said that's going to be me someday?
Yeah, so like, dude, I'm not kidding. Like, when I was young, we lived on Upper Crooked.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally had a rod in my hand since I was probably 2 or 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically, I remember I have memories of, I know I couldn't have been more than 3 or 4 years old, of my first bass. Like, I was down on the dock. I caught it, actually laid it up on the dock, ran all the way up to the house to my mom, and I got her and my dad, and they came down. And that fish never flopped off the dock. It just laid right there. My grandpa did taxidermy, so it was actually in the freezer to get mounted, and then the freezer went bad right about the time he started getting time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, man, like I grew up doing that. My grandpa, like Kevin's first boat before he went pro, his old Astro, was my grandpa actually bought it from him, and I grew up idolizing Kevin. Like Kevin was a big mentor, like not really a mentor, but someone I looked up to. And someone I wanted to be one day. And I was like, man, I really wanted to be like that. And I started getting into fishing, and I was like, man, I'm really good at this. Like, this is something I'm really, really good at. And then, I don't know, I like playing football, so I really didn't put a whole lot of focus into it. And there was no like high school tournaments and stuff like that really when I was that age. They really started kicking off here in the last few years. I think the school down the road did it, and we went to one of their meetings, and it was a joke. And so like I'd actually never really fished a tournament until I was probably 18, 19 years old is when I really started getting into it.
Wow.
So with the and I know exactly what you're talking about, because everybody at this table talks about it too. Like when we were growing up, we didn't have that. We didn't have those high school fishing leagues, and collegiate level fishing wasn't there.
Yeah,
and
there was no real
like
pipeline
to
help guide you. I mean, like, you're still a long shot, right? Even fishing high school, college, you're still. I was just talking to somebody yesterday about it. Like, at best, there's 300 spots to be a professional angler at a high level. If you count the NPFL, which we do in that conversation, you have 100, maybe some change on the elites, maybe 100 and some change on Bass Pro Tour, MLF, and then and that's it. Like at that high national level. And when we see the numbers of high school and college kids, it's like, what did they tell? Dale and them told us like 35,000 kids in North Carolina alone fishing high school tournaments. Like, unbelievable.
It's crazy.
The tournament world has just exploded. I know there's a lot of talk on the internet. I say the internet like an old person. I know there's a lot of talk on the internet. But there's a lot of social media folks, and I won't name them, but there's a lot of people coming out saying like, man, we're having too many tournaments. There's too many tournaments on too many of these lakes and creating too much pressure and stuff. And I remember back in the day when we were younger, that wasn't the case. Like it was you could find a honey hole and be out there all day and never have to worry about it. Now you're going to see somebody when you're on the lake.
So like, for example, I'm going to go with St. Clair because he's fished it. I fished it. Have you ever fished St. Clair?
No.
So we started fishing smallmouth fishing and muskie fishing Lake St. Clair when I was probably 8 years old, so that would have been like 93, and we would be out there, and you wouldn't see another bass boat fishing. You might see a local every once in a while. You'd see Kevin out there running around because he was somewhat local. I think we saw Jimmy Houston there one time. He was just in town fishing it, but that was it. It was mostly people on jet skis and all of that stuff, and then social media. I'm not saying it ruined it. I think it's great that people were taking advantage of the fishery, but like as soon as I think it was the 150s were the first one that went there. And they were whacking, like he said, 28, 30-pound bags of smallmouth. It was like the next year we went up, and you could walk across the bass boats that were up there fishing. Yeah. But, there was nobody there, man. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, Watts Bar and every lake around here, because there's not that many lakes around me. And, dude, I'm not kidding you. There's every given weekend, there's probably 6 or 7 tournaments going, at least just on Watts Bar. And Watts Bar, I mean, isn't the greatest fishery around here. And I'm not, like, there's at least 500 bass boats out there every weekend, every day.
I think when you look at
it's just unbelievable how many tournaments there are. Yeah. And luckily, like Michigan's doing a really good job at stepping that up. They you have to register all your tournaments now. If there's too many tournaments on that body of water, they're telling you no. like St. Clair won't even let you fish it until the spawn. Like this last weekend, I fished a tournament, and that was the open, which is great for the fishery because it allows them fish to spawn, get through what they need to do, at least the main stretch of the spawn. Like you're still going to have spawners all year long. Like the river's 57 degrees right now. Some fish are just getting ready, like they're just like spawning and just getting off of it and getting ready to spawn on Huron. But man, it's great what they're doing up there. Like I really like the fact that you have to register every tournament and the DNR basically tells you yes or no.
Yeah. And Trey's right. And so are a lot of these influencers and social media folks that bring it up. When you look at destination lakes like that, any of the TVA lakes are pretty much a destination lake at this point. St. Clair, St. John's River is going to turn into that or St. Lawrence. I'm sorry, St. John too. But like all of those lakes and rivers and systems that are destination, Okeechobee is going to get blown up. Cayuga, like. We need to do something because a 500 boat tournament every Saturday or 500 bass boats fishing a tournament every Saturday is going to degrade a fishery to some extent because there's inherent fish kill. And people might get upset that are watching this, and that's fine. You can get mad at me. We had Corey on here, who's a NC wildlife biologist, who talked about fish kill with tournaments. And basically, if the water's over 65 degrees, most of those fish are going to die. It might not be that day, but in their studies, within 48 hours, a lot of those fish die in local tournaments. Now, bass and NPFL, other places, they have systems in place to ensure that there's a better survivability with those fish. But when you have 500 boats in a local tournament or BFL, fish care is not top priority in a lot of those. And, it does beat them up. So I'm making my case on what I believe. Mitch, what are your thoughts on this kind of trend where people are thinking about we need to limit tournaments on some of these waters?
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I really do think we need to do better at making it to where there's basically one big, like you can have one big tournament, cap it at like 250 boats or so, but it's getting overfished, and fish care is a big thing to me. And like you said, there's a lot of these places are getting overfished and they're killing a bunch of fish because not a lot of people care about fish care. St. Clair is one of them weird places, for instance, where if you catch a fish in 10 foot of water, you have to fizz it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of people that don't know how to properly fizz a bass, and they'll just stick them in the live well, and if they die, they die. I'm the type that, man, if a fish is flipped upside down, I fizz it, I put weights on it, it's not doing good, I'm going to throw it back, and I'm going to try and catch a different one. Like, I'm not going to kill a 4.5, 5 pound fish just to win a couple $1,000s. Like, it ain't worth it to me.
Yep.
I'm going to throw that fish back, and because there's so many fish in there, like if you're on a good area, you'll catch another one. We had a couple this weekend where I had to fizz them. I literally put them in the live well, fizzed them, got their bladders where they were buoyant again, made sure they were good, and they still wanted to flip up, and you have to fin clip them. But overfishing tournaments like these lakes is a big problem, I think. And we can as anglers, we can do a lot better job at it.
This is a very interesting discussion. I know it's come up a lot on social media. I'm not sold on it yet. And I remember when Corey was on, he talked about the live well, but he also talked about, I don't know if this made the cut, but if you go back and look at the data for our lakes in North Carolina, there's been no change since the 80s when they shocked the fish, both in quality and numbers, right? And he was specifically talking about Jordan, for instance, when we were talking about that. And I don't remember if that was offline or if that was actually on the pod. If we look at some of the weights that the pro organizations have put together the last couple of years on some of these lakes, they're absolutely phenomenal. And these are destination lakes. We're talking century belts in places. Look at Okeechobee, a month or two ago, and the massive bags they have there, right? So I'm not sold on the fact that the fisheries are getting worse from a conservation species perspective, right? And I think you'd have to start seeing a trend across a lot of these lakes where the shocking data indicates that. Now, the fishing may become more difficult because there's more pressure, right? More people are trying to catch them. There's studies out there that have indicated that fish learn behavior and they learn what to avoid. It's why when brand new baits come out, right? Like I'm thinking like it's not the Chapo, but the topwater bait, Whopper Plopper came out, right? Absolutely killing fish. Alabama rig the same way. Chatterbait when it first came out, right? And the fish learn over time. So again, I'm not sold that the fishery is actually hurt. it just may be getting tougher to fish.
I'm glad we went off on this tangent. I know we want to talk definitely your journey, but it's good to get your opinion on it, because I think this is what I think. I think I know there are more tournaments than there's ever been. Is that part of growing the industry? Yes. As anglers, do we always preach grow the industry? Yes. I think what a lot of people deep down inside are thinking, though, is, damn, dude, I can never get to my spot anymore. I wish all these boats weren't on the water. Because I can tell you right now, I know that there's more boats on the water. I don't know if they're hurting the fish, but I know it's hard as heck to get to the spots I want to go to now. So I think from the the biological standpoint, we're probably not hurting the fish. And in fact, you've done videos about research that's shown that throwing fish back is not always a good thing, right? Actually culling out fish to make a fishery more healthy.
It's the same thing Corey was talking about with the slot.
Right.
Now you're no longer taking fish.
Right.
They get pinched and you can no longer grow.
So now you're coming into a bottleneck approach where you're not growing fish anymore. They're just kind of hitting a stall state. But I think from the angler perspective, I think it's just getting frustrating. You know, like when you at the NPFL level are going out on Santee Cooper, for instance, and everyone watched you practice through your social media, or they're following you around in the water or whatever, and the next thing you know, you got 40 boats sitting in an area that you wanted to go to. It's pretty frustrating. And then we resort to saying, man, these lakes are just getting too much pressure, when it really is, man, these people are finding out where the heck I'm fishing, you know. But everyone has, I mean, I know Texas is a big one right now. I know there's a lot of like false propaganda being pushed on social media, like Alabama Bass Council is going to cancel tournaments or whatever. But it is something to take into consideration, because, I mean, if Conservation and Wildlife is looking at the, hey, there's a creel limit for a reason. Like if we can keep legally 5 14-inch largemouth every single day of the year in the South and every single day during the season, which I know Michigan has seasons on bass and stuff, then clearly they don't think there's too many boats on the water.
Well, but the problem with that is, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we'll get back on track. Like the fish that you're looking at today is data from last year. Corey said it too. It might take 3 years for them to process the data when they do this stuff. 3 years ago, there weren't 500 boats on Watts Bar every Saturday.
You're getting pretty close with COVID.
So now you're starting. Well, yeah, you're getting close to where now we're really going to start to see the effects of more anglers on bodies of water. Now, Corey also said that catch and release is 100% better. If you catch them right there and release them, the survivability is almost 100%, things like that. But now I think we're going to start to see over the next couple of years, as that data comes in, as more people fish tournaments and stuff, and don't, like Mitch said, people don't know on St. Clair, like 10 foot, if you're going to put a live well, you better fizz it. Because deep in that lake is 15 foot, and they don't think about that.
Yeah, there's a big problem out there last year with a few tournaments at the beginning of the year where they were killing hundreds of fish a tournament. I mean, 4 and 5 pounders that were just getting constantly killed, I mean, by the hundreds. And the DNR was starting to freak out to the point where I think they were considering almost shutting it down for a little bit, like for tournaments, because it was getting so bad.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it in the club I'm in. And the club I'm in Michigan is an invitation-only club. And we talked about not even going there because we made sure that everyone knew how to fish before we even went out there. Like, if you guys don't know how to fizz them, get in my boat for a day. Let's go catch a couple. I'll break it down, show you how to do it. And then basically you show me that you know how to do it, then we'll let you go, type thing.
I wonder, and this is the last thing I'll say on this. This is a question for the group, but I wonder if biologists are taking into consideration how much more advanced and how better anglers are at targeting fish now.
So this is the point I was going to make, and the last thing with this is that it'll be interesting to see, because if the lakes are truly decreasing over the pressure, right, over the last 3 years since COVID, but the industry's been growing for the last 10 years with high school and all. There's just more people tournament fishing over the last 10 years. But if LiveScope came out, we were able to target fish that otherwise very few people would go target. So it'll be interesting over the next 3 to 5 years if there's an actual decrease, right, because now maybe we're just chasing other fish
Yeah.
that weren't chased before, you know.
Yeah. This has been great conversation. The one thing I'm going to back Mitch up: learn how to fizz fish. If you don't,
That's right.
Fish can need fizzed in 2 foot of water as much as they do in 45 foot of water. Mitch offered reach out to him if you're up in that area. He'd be more than happy to teach you. Barb Elliott, look her up on Facebook. She's the one that basically teaches all the elite anglers how to properly fizz fish in the north, especially on our Great Lakes and smallmouth fisheries. She sells a kit that's great that has instructions with pictures drawn exactly where you need to fizz them. She'll give you her phone number when you order them, and you can call her from the water, and she will walk you through the process. So just get those resources, and I'll link Barb's Facebook in the description below. Learn how to fizz fish, because with more tournaments, we don't really know the impact that's going to be over the last 5 years for a couple more years, and just make sure that as an angler that you do everything you can to preserve the resource and keep fish alive. So, we talked about Florida fishing. We talked about, you went back up to Michigan. You started tournament fishing up there. We're winning money, realized you were pretty good at it, and you had a chance to make maybe make a living out of it. It was something you wanted to pursue. Got the dream deal to go down to the TVA for work, but then also to fish some of the most difficult and what all of us I think sort of agree are some of the best training grounds in North America. So you got confident that. So how did the NPFL come to fruition for you? Let's talk about how you ended up in that organization.
So basically, I had been following it since it started, and I have a couple buddies who fish it. Ross Rhodes, Buck Mallory, Adam Savage fished it last year. Me and Adam know each other pretty good just from social media. And Doug Chapin, I met Doug at the Fish Talk Frenzy last year. Basically, so how it all started is I started doing videos. I started with TikTok, and I was never a big Instagram kind of guy. I was big on TikTok. Started blowing up on TikTok, and I absolutely loved it. I love making videos and all that other stuff. Started reaching out to companies, and I started getting some deals, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, maybe this is something we can pursue. And then Ross called me, and he's like, hey, man, he goes, I haven't really tried to get a whole lot of people in. And I started talking to him I was like, man, I really want to fish this if I can. Like, if you can get me in, like, I want to fish. So he called Brad. Brad basically called me, and I got in it. I filled out my application, was accepted. Then I called Sipshine. I know the owner of Sipshine. I actually used to work with him at Cabela's, him and his brother. And I was like, hey, man, like, this is what I can do for you. Like, I'm doing. And when I first started, I think at the beginning of the year, I was at like 10,000 followers on Instagram or on TikTok, and like a couple thousand on TikTok or Instagram. I'm sorry. And
It's the Sipshine.
started doing 2 million views on TikTok, and I was like, look, this is what I can do for you. Like, I can plug you in all these places. Like, I'm going to be traveling all over the country. I can give you I'll basically be a moving billboard. And so that's how, like, I really started talking to them, and got another couple like Grandmaster Concrete. He's a buddy of mine, and just started reaching out to local people, trying to get money together. And I ended up getting it together. And I was short a little bit, and I'm like, I'm just work some overtime, pay for it. And yeah, that's basically how we got into it. And it's going good or okay so far.
Did you try reaching out to endemic companies before you reached out to non-endemic companies?
No, I basically knew there was no money in the fishing industry. Basically, everyone does the whole pro staff deal. There's no money in it. All your money is going to come from outside companies that need to get rid of some money for the year, basically write-offs, stuff like that. And fishing companies don't like it. The only way you're getting a deal, like a really good paying deal, is if you know someone,
right?
Like a Noah high up, and that's how it all works. Everyone else is just getting pro staff deals.
So, do you blame Kevin Van Dam for not?
No, man. I mean, his deal was. I mean, he's got a pretty sweet deal going.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's that's a lot of foresight for you to know that going into it, like understanding that the money isn't there unless you are a Kevin Van Dam or
Gerald Swindle,
or one of these big names that everybody around fishing recognizes. When you're first starting out, and you're not going to call Berkeley and they're going to go, yeah, here's $5,000, go fish a tournament and put our name on the jersey.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You have to have those non-endemic sponsors, and they have to be unique. And there's a few folks, yourself included, obviously, that have figured out a way to leverage that and work towards those non-endemic sponsors to pave your way into fishing. And essentially they paid, I don't know how much you left, but say 90% of your, entry fees, just throwing a number out there. You don't have to confirm or deny, but like to put the work in to talk to those folks and present what you can to them and do that was, I think a lot of the folks that want to do this, their dream dies when, 13 Fishing doesn't want to give them a rod deal and provide them with a boat wrap the first year they're going into it.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's just hard. I mean, if you don't have social media anymore, you ain't getting deals in anything. It don't matter if you're. I mean, Kevin and Wheeler are probably the only one, but even Wheeler's got a huge YouTube following. Mm-hmm. I mean, basically every deal is social media based anymore. It's what social media has done to the industry, which I think is good because it's helped everyone learn, and I'm big on everyone learning.
Yep.
I think social media, and not that I'm a professional angler, but just knowing social media, it's helped out a lot of anglers explore creative options when it comes to finding people that are willing to provide some sort of monetary support for them. Now you don't have to go crying to Abu Garcia or whoever and ask them to support you. Now you can say, hey, listen, I can bring you extreme amount of coverage to a product or to a service that you provide, and I can do it through these means, right? And so that's a big deal because TV is dead for the most part. The days of selling a boat or a rod off of just a jersey logo alone, those have pretty much died. So you got to have a culmination of all the above. And so knowing that, like Pete said, like you're ahead of the power curve. And but
kudos to the companies that provided you that opportunity, because they obviously saw the value and where you bring the value in that advertising to them. Because like you said, you're a rolling billboard, you're making social media posts, and you can mention those companies like, we fish after a long hot day. What's better than a little glass of ice cold moonshine? You know what I'm saying? Concrete company, all that stuff. Like it's awesome.
Every tournament I'm at, that's what like I've had a rough year so far. So like 2 days before we left for Pickwick, our house burnt down. We lost all 3 of our dogs.
Oh man, sorry to hear that.
And everything else. I had to leave 2 days after that, and I've just tried to keep a positive spirit. But I've been dealing with that at all 3 events. I've had insurance calling me and stuff like that, and dealing with that stuff. But the cool thing is like I'll get up on stage, and whether I had a good day or not, I'm going home and I'm drinking a bottle of Sip Shine. Like I may not have caught any fish, but I'm gonna go catch a buzz tonight. That's for sure.
That's right.
Not a glass of Sip Shine.
Oh no, no, we drink a whole bottle. I drink probably a bottle of this a night when I'm at a tournament. Sometimes, if it's a rough one, maybe a bottle and a half. But or if we're doing real good, like that. After I put Jake on 20 pounds last week, I was like, we're going to drink a good bottle tonight. Bottle and a half.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool. And social media has done a lot. Like, I own Gorilla Fishing now. So basically we are like, we're a small company basically that pushes small companies only, almost like a tackle warehouse, but with small businesses only. And that's all we deal with. So, I mean, it helps push other companies. So we sell Jake's lure joint, all of his line throughs, all of his tubes, all of his batons, stuff like that. The NBT screens. We're not limiting Pride rods, Fisk, sunglasses. Man, there's so much stuff. All motivated Brazalo and all their jigs and soft plastics and stuff like that. So it's really cool that social media has opened this brand up to us to where we can show like all these companies and like a lot of companies that a lot of people didn't see before that are really quality to their local area, but now you can get on like our site and go on and get like all these brands in one site, not have to go to 10 different websites.
Are you still working for the power company there?
Yep, for right now.
Okay, for right now. We won't talk.
Yeah.
So you're working for the power company, you have Gorilla Fishing, you're fishing the National Professional Fishing League. You're married, right? Yep. And I know that because I met your wonderful wife down at Santee, and I didn't want to bring that up, man. Like that was probably the most sad story that I've heard with the whole house situation and losing your dogs and stuff like that. And I had to tell my wife about it because she's an avid animal lover, and I think she legitimately started crying over the phone. But you got all those things on your plate. But was it the NPFL at first, or was it BFLs and things like that you started fishing prior to going to these companies and asking for that support?
So I started off in West Michigan Bassmasters, which is invitational only club.
Yep.
It's one of the oldest clubs in the state of Michigan, and it's honestly nothing but a group of sticks guys who probably should be fishing pro, but just don't have the money or the drive to go do it, have careers, stuff like that, kids. And I went into it getting told that my best friend got me into it, and he was in it for probably 20 years, man. And he was like, you're going to come in the club, you're going to get your teeth kicked in, and everyone's going to make fun of you, make you want to quit, blah, blah, blah. You're going to wake up the next morning and have waypoints and baits sitting on your boat. I mean, he goes, that's the way everyone is. Like, they're going to make fun of you. And I'm the type, I'm way too competitive to let that happen. So I started studying lakes, I started studying maps. And I went up, my first tournament of actually being on Traverse, and this was the first time I'd ever been on Traverse. Went up there, took third place with like 18 pounds the first day, and I found something really good at the end of the day. Like, we were sitting in 6 footers, 5.5, 6 footers, just bobbing like bobbers. And I'm sitting there like taking them over the bow, and I'm like, we found something really good. So we left it alone to the end of the day, or probably I think we went back there on the Sunday at like 11 o'clock, and we had like 14 pounds. And between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, we went all the way up to 22 pounds, man. And it was just absolute blast. Like, we didn't even fish everything. Like, I called my buddy. I was like, hey, man, what do you got? And he's like, 13 pounds. And I'm like, come up here. I was like, I'm done. He's like, what do you mean you're done? I was like, I'm going back to the ramp and sitting there. Like, I got 20 pounds. Like, I'm good. But really, that was the club that got me into it. And I started doing that and started fishing the BFLs when I moved down here, because I felt like that's what I needed to do. That was my best opportunity to learn from non-boaters and boaters and people that I knew. And so I started doing that. But yeah, other than that, sponsorships are just from social media.
So
go ahead.
When you saw the NPFL, followed it, the first year that it came out, as soon as you saw what they were doing, did you instantly want to fish it? Was that something that drew you immediately?
Yeah, I did, because the cool thing about the league is that we actually go to a lot of these lakes that a lot of the other the big circuits don't go to. So like Wright Patman is cool. Like, that was like, I did really bad there, but that's a really cool fishery. Pickwick, I mean, obviously that's a place. We were originally supposed to go to Lake Amistad down in Del Rio, and the elites used to go there.
Yep.
And I was looking at that, and I'm like, this is going to be a really cool fishery. It's just so far away, but I'm really excited for this one. And then Saginaw, like, there's never been a pro bass tournament on Saginaw before we went there. Now you got the BBT guys going there this year. You follow this year. And it's like Lanier in Georgia. Like, that's our last tournament this year. There's not a lot of tournaments out of there, and that's something that I think is really cool. Is they're not beating up the same fisheries that all the other pro circuits are.
Yep.
Like, we're going and fishing these other places. We may not be picking the best times of year, in my opinion, to go there right now, but we're picking these lakes that are different than everyone else, and I think that's fun.
And I appreciate going to the lakes at different times of the year, because it just shows off the fishery in a different way. MOF last year, BPT, they went down to Florida. I think it was last year in May or something, right? Mm-hmm. No pro circuit goes down there in May. And they caught a lot of fish and a lot of big fish, right? You don't have to go to the same places during the same months of the year. And that's what's great about the NPFL, and then spreading the schedule out. So guys like you can still have a full-time job, but being able to go to different places, it's phenomenal. It's something different.
Lanier is going to be a ton of fun in October. And for anybody listening, we are going to be there. We're going to go down. We had, if you listen to last week's episode, which I'm sure you all did, if you didn't, shame on you and go listen now. We had Brad and Paul on, and they invited us down and kind of opened up the door to do a podcast with them live to kind of talk through the season. So, or not live, but in person down there. We'll still probably edit it or whatever. But so we're gonna come down to Lanier, and we'll see you, Mitch. We'll get some stuff down there. But looking forward to coming down. I didn't get a chance to come to Santee because of them pushing it today, and I had some other things scheduled already that I couldn't really. I mean, I probably could have weaseled my way out of them.
He was sleeping the whole day.
I wish.
No, but you know what? I agree with you, Ben. And we talked about this before. Not only does the NPFL spread their schedule out to facilitate being able to work for the power company or whatever you do, going to the lakes tests the fishery, but it also tests the anglers.
Yep.
And, you know, you can look at, traditionally speaking, majority of the events are spawning events, right? They are. They are spawning events, sight fishing events. Of course, electronics are playing a role in all of these events now for the most part, minus the Sabine River that we just saw was awesome.
Call it the Sabine so you can make people mad
The
like I did.
Sabine, but you know, I like that, and I like that you guys get to just practice or just work your art in a different fashion. You know, like going and fishing for smallies after the spawn is very different than fishing for smallies during the spawn. You know,
I'll let you talk 1 second, Mitch, but I think it's really cool how you mentioned that going to the different fisheries than what everybody else fishes was one part of the appeal, because every single NPFL angler we've had on, Mike Corbishley, Stephanie,
Josh
Watkins, almost every single one of them has mentioned that as one of the appeals to them to fish with the NPFL is being able to fish the non-destination or the non-traditional tournament lakes. And so it's cool to hear, you know, that's kind of throughout the league and everybody that fishes it.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. And I mean, it's this year's been a lot of grinders. I mean, it probably wasn't the best time for some of these lakes, but like you said, it puts us to the test and shows really who's really good. And I mean, honestly, I ain't been fishing that good this year. I'm a lot better than what I've been doing, but it's my first year and I'm just giving myself a learning year, basically.
Sure.
On how to break. Like I'm like up north, I'm good at breaking down lakes and stuff like that, but going to all these different lakes with hundreds of thousands of acres and stuff like that, like it's different. But I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it now.
You know, I think too many people sitting at the local level judge a lot of anglers. Like, you know, we got a lot, you have it in Michigan, you have it everywhere you go in Tennessee, all that stuff. You have those guys and gals that do really good on one lake.
Yep.
Or maybe 3 lakes, and they just crush the competition. But go ahead and go all in like you did, from moving from Florida to Michigan to Tennessee, and diversifying your portfolio and you may not be great at everything, but you might be good at everything. And so when you take a local level angler that can win, look, we saw it on the EQs, right? When they came to Bugs Island, the guy that won absolutely knows Bugs Island.
Yep.
Like he knows where the fish live. He knows where the big fish live. He knows exactly how to catch them. And he did a really good job, and he whooped the competition. But he very well may struggle if you take him to Wright Patton.
Oh, he's going to.
You know what I'm saying? Like, or wherever they go. And so, you know, when we talk about defining a professional angler, we all have our own versions of it. But somebody that can fish anywhere and do relative, and you don't even have to do that well. You know,
that's why for me, like, winning a classic is great. But like, yeah, so you got lucky. Maybe not lucky, but you won one tour. When guys, like, for me, Angler of the Year trophies are so much more impressive.
Oh yeah.
Not that raising a shield in the NPFL is an accomplishment. Not that raising a blue trophy in the elites isn't an accomplishment. Not that raising that big ugly red trophy in MLFBPT isn't an accomplishment. But to be able to be consistent at that high of a level through an entire season and win an Angler of the Year, to me, speaks volumes to how good of an angler you truly are, because that means you probably didn't finish less than 30th. That could I'd have to go back and look at some things. I know some other people like Brandon got lucky last year on one, had a really bad tournament, but he was so good on the other ones, you know, he was able to come back from that. But like guys like, you look at Gerald Swindle, never won an Elite Series event.
right.
2 Angler of the Years. We talked about Clark Wendlandt last week. Never won an Elite Series event. Has an Angler of the Year. It's tough to go out and win an individual trophy, but I think it's even tougher to go out and win that Angler of the Year shield.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would honestly say that, in my opinion, Angler of the Year should pay a lot more than what winning a tournament or a classic does, because it's so hard to be consistent on every lake. Yeah.
So, how do you? We'll talk about your season in just a second. I know you said you haven't had a good season, but let's talk about balancing all that, right? So you got your sponsors, Sip Shine, Next Best Thing or Next Big Thing, NBT Marine. NBT. You got all those other ones, Gorilla Fishing. You got your wife.
Power Influence. Yeah, my wife is one that does all my photography. So
really?
She's a big part of it. Like, I couldn't do probably any of this. Like, I could do some of it, but like all my photography and stuff is 100% her. Like she travels with me to every event. She goes out on the boat with me. On a lot of these, whether it's just for an hour or two or whatever. And she does a lot of pictures, make sure to have enough so that way I have enough to last me through the league. And now she's doing them for me, Doug, Adam, John Palacini, and a couple other guys in the league too.
Hopefully she's getting paid for that.
Yeah, yeah. She
If
is.
you do something well, you don't do it for free.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
So that's awesome, man. So I mean, at least the family life gets to travel with you.
Yeah.
You know, working the TVA stuff though. How do you find time for that?
So basically, I work contract, so I'm not hired annually, and it was a big thing that like when my contract came across, they offered me an annual job. And I was like, I can go fish professionally, or I can have a stable, like guaranteed job for basically as long as I want. And I sat down with my wife and I told her, I was like, this is something that I'm never going to get another opportunity like this to do. So like, there's other places I can have a job tomorrow if I need to in this industry. And she was really supportive and told me that if this is what you want to do and you feel like you can do it, let's do it. And so I decided to turn down the full-time job, stay contract. And so basically the way it works is I sent out all the days off I needed in November, and they approve my time off and stuff like that. So working contract, I just tell them when I need off and I'm off. Luckily, it's almost like owning your own business type thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But yeah, it's really cool, and they've been really, really great to work with my schedule and everything. Like I take a lot of time off, obviously. I haven't been working a bunch of overtime this year. Like last year, I think I worked 1,300 hours of overtime. And this year I've really cut back on it because I need to be on the water. And as bad as I'm fishing, I need to be on the water as much as I can. Yep. And putting myself on the water is going to get me out of this slump. In this last couple of weeks, I feel like I've finally gotten out of it.
So let's talk about the slump you're in. You know, was in.
You just said he's out of it.
Yeah. I got you.
Come on.
So that time on the water, you know, not working as much overtime as you traditionally do, getting more time on the water. Let's talk about your season real quick. So from start till now.
Yeah, so the start of the season was horrible. I mean, you guys heard me earlier. The house, we got keys 24 hours. And the house burnt down. Lost all 3 of our dogs. I had to leave 2 days after that. Drive to Pickwick. I actually drove back to my camper here in Tennessee, picked up my boat, and then drove to Pickwick. We got down to Pickwick, and my goal there, like I felt really good going into it. I went down there to pre-practice, and I had a couple stretches where I caught 15 pounds in a matter of 20 minutes. And I was like, all right, this is going to be really good. Like this is going to fish perfect. Like I was looking at the weights from the weekend before, and TVA accidentally dropped 10 foot out of it the day before we got there. Apparently there was a turnover miss, and someone left the floodgates open, dropped 10 foot out of it. So I knew there was good fish up on the other end. And after everything that happened there with the fire and everything, I couldn't sit down in the big cluster of everyone down at the horseshoe. I knew that's where it was going to win, but I just couldn't bring myself to sit down there. So I decided that I was going to make the run every day, clear my head first thing in the morning, run all the way down to the other end of the lake. And the first day it paid off really good. I came in with 3 fish, 9 pounds, and I was sitting in like 20th place. I was feeling all right. Like for what I had, I was feeling all right. Second day I went out, made the run, caught one right off the bat, caught another one, and the second one was short. And then got on a bluff wall, missed. I had one come off that was really big. I mean, it was a big smallmouth. It was probably 5-6 pound. I seen it at the boat. They were just eating that crankbait. They were getting it just on that back hook. And I missed that one. And then the third day was the same thing. I caught one short fish and one big fish and ended up in mid 50s. Patman, I found a mega school. I was offshore and I found a mega school. Like I was sitting there and I was like, if I can get these fish to bite, I'm going to win. Like I only needed 5 bites. Like on live scope, I could sit there and watch them eat schools of crappie bait, and the small fish were 4.5 pounds. And I'm not kidding. Like I sat on this school for 10.5 hours and I couldn't get one to bite. I sat on them from morning to midday, the second day of practice, and then from midday to after, like almost dark, this third day of practice, just trying to figure out if I could figure something out. I had 35 rods on my deck at one point. And it was absolutely unbelievable, but I knew if I could get these fish to bite that I would win. Like I would have a 30-pound bag without a problem with 5 fish. And there was so many fish. Like it was an old Kentucky lake school is what it looked like. Like 30, like I'm not kidding you. Like there was 500 fish. Like Will came out with me because it was the cool thing with the league is we're allowed sponsors and like sponsors and immediate family are allowed to go with you on your boat for all the practice and tournaments. So
That's awesome.
Me and Will owning Gorilla, Will came out with me in the boat just to have fun, hang out and see how it was like. And he was like, dude, what in the hell did you find? And I'm like, dude, it's like, if I can get this school to fire up, it's going to be crazy. But I got in there, got flipping, and I just couldn't keep them hooked. Like, I don't know, like it's been a while since I flipped. So it was literally one of them bites where as soon as it hits the water, if you're not setting the hook, then they're gone. Like you're not getting them. So I missed probably 25 pounds the first day. Like I had an 8-pounder come off at the boat and it was just like, I was just frustrated. And then I ended up, I've had really bad one there, finished towards the bottom of the pack. And then Santee was different. I had a lot of boat issues. I had battery issues. It really wasn't boat issues. It was just batteries. Like I had batteries go bad halfway through the day of the first day, but I found something really good in there. Like I was fishing the channel going in between Marion and Moultrie, and I found flipping them laydowns with the drop shot, I was getting bit a bunch. I set the hook on one fish, and it was right at 14 inches. I was like, all right, as tough as this tournament's being, like if I can go in here and catch a limit every day of these 14 inches, like there's a really good chance I'm going to cash a check just off of these fish. And I ended up going in there first day of the tournament. I caught 25 to 30 fish between 7 o'clock and 11:30, and all of them were 12 and 13 inches. And I was like, man, this is just my luck. So I ended up going out, went and fished the grass, ended up fishing the outer edges of the grass with a frog, missed a couple, and then started throwing a wacky rig the next day. Got a 5-pounder, had another 4 come off on a frog, and then caught another just like 16-incher, had a decent like couple pounds, moved me up in points. And the same thing the third day I found what I really should have been doing the whole time. I was panning around out by one of the islands in Potato and seeing some out there schooling, like seeing them sitting on bottom. So I grabbed a jerk bait and I just whipped it out there, just seeing if I could get them to react to it. Man, and 4 of them shot up, and they were big ones. And one of them finally committed and freaking just missed it. And I sat there and they shot right back down the bottom. And I sat there for 45 minutes trying to catch them again. And I was like, just trying to get them to fire back up. And I'm like, man, if I had more time to really figure this out, like this is something that I really could have done really good at. But it's one of them things where you just figure it out too late. And so I went back throwing the wacky rig around the grass and luckily caught 2 more fish, moved me up, I think mid-60s. So, I mean, I was upset with how bad it was, but I was happy with how I finished strong. I didn't have a fish at 2 o'clock, and I was due back in at 3, and between 2 and 3, I got 2 fish. So
yeah. What do you do mentally after? So you got 3 not so great events. What have you done between Santee and now besides getting on the water? Like, how are you processing that to re-energize and get to Saginaw Bay and start crushing some skulls?
Man, I'm really forgetful.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
That's good.
That's great for the sport.
So like I don't stay in my head. Like I'll get in my head like a little bit like during a day or something, but after that night I reset mentally. Like I'm really good at just letting the past go. Like that was yesterday's thing. Let's go do today. Let's go figure it out today. We may not have done good yesterday, but we're gonna go do good today.
Yep.
So I went on the water here in Watts Bar. I was fishing the St. Jude's tournament, and I actually went out and caught like 20 pounds in practice. And I'm at Watts Bar, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like we're getting out of this thing. and then I go up north, and I knew going up there, like I was just gonna go have a smash fest, get out of my thing. And I went up there and caught 20 pounds the first day. We sat in 4-footers. The second day, caught 16 pounds, and then went out on St. Clair, caught a bunch of largemouth. Like the winds were so bad, we stayed in the river last Friday, and the currents were so strong you couldn't fish any of the current. The lake was so bad you couldn't fish the lake, so we got in the creek or in the boat slips and stuff like that and started fishing for largemouth and caught a really good bag of the largemouth. And we're like, let's just go have fun and fish St. Clair blind, and caught 17 pounds. And I was like, all right, like we're finally getting out of this thing. And really, Saginaw is the one I've been looking forward to all year. It's home. You can go there and you can catch 15 to 18 pounds of largemouth throwing a freaking hot dog out there. I mean, them fish are so stupid. But it's always one on smallmouth. And I really feel like that it's something that I've been looking forward to all year, is just getting up there. And I know, like, if I can get up there and I find 2 or 3 schools, like it's going to be game over. Like, I know there's going to be one day where we can't get out there to them probably, and they're going to lock us in, or it's just going to be too rough and you have to go largemouth fishing. But man, them other 2 days, I really think that people better watch out, because it's going to be an absolute smash fest. If it stays calm, there's going to be a lot of people out there chasing them. And but there's also going to be a lot of people that won't, because they're scared of the Great Lakes. I mean, it still scares me a little bit sometimes, but it's a scary place if you've never been out there before.
Sure. You're not going to go cut like Gary Atkins the brakes and stuff on his trailer, right?
No.
I know.
I'll
go ahead.
No, man. I'll probably be running farther than he did. Like, I mapped it out, and I think I'm running at first to start off from the ramp. If I get him on one spot, it's going to be 45 to 50 miles one way.
Wow. Those are some runs, man.
Yeah.
If not a little bit farther. Yeah. So, I'm not scared. Like, I love making long runs. Well,
hopefully the rest of your tournament season, like, I guess that is the best medicine, is just to forget. You know what I mean?
I wish I could do that.
But, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, though, when you have bad tournaments, and I think this is anglers, there's no cookie cutter, sponsored deal. And I wanted to talk about your sponsor, specifically NBT here. But some anglers have some weight over their shoulders as it pertains to how they finish in an event, right? Like, when it comes to their sponsors, do certain sponsors require you to have good finishes, or would like to see better finishes than none?
No, not really. So, like, Sip Shine, I mean, they're probably the only one that's tournament based, like, that really, like, but they're not big. They know that this is my first year.
Yeah.
And so they're not really, they know, but I think it's more of a social media deal. It's kind of like a mix, but everything else is 100% social media besides NBT. Like, me and Mitch like, I started talking to Mitch when he was doing the owner, when he was doing prototypes like last year, and he came to me this year and he was like, hey man, like, these are getting ready to release. And I was like, hey man, like, this is what I can do for you. I'm fishing the NPFL this year. And he really likes the tournament anglers more than the social media guys. So we really got to talking, and that's where I guess it's not really like, it doesn't really depend on doing good, but it also, like, it looks better.
Sure.
So
yeah. I think you're seeing a lot of those tournament success deals going away, because the power of social media has made it not as important. It used to be. Yeah. And let's just be honest, the reason KVD got as big as he did was because he was winning everything.
Sure.
And back then, it was the cover of BASS. It was in the local newspaper. It was on ESPN. They were interviewing him, they had him on. He was on one of the ESPN commercials back in the day when they used to have people, act like they were in the office and things like that. So back then, the success in tournament angling is what got your sponsors to the forefront. Even back, you look at like Rick Klund when he was really hot and got in with Bass Pro early, and Johnny and all them. Now you don't necessarily have to go out there. It helps, like he said, it absolutely helps if you're not winning a bunch of tournaments. You can say I use this to win, but if you can leverage followers on social media who are just following you for the products that you're pushing, and not necessarily tournament success, they're not going to be as concerned about your tournament. I imagine for Sip Shine, a big part of theirs, I'm sure, is just the mileage. Like you said, you're a big billboard for them.
Yeah, I do. I'm probably between driving back and forth to Michigan as much as I do, and driving down to Louisiana all the time to Power Implements. Dude, I bet you I'm probably doing close to 40 to 50,000 miles this year. Wow. And that's one thing I can sell to them is like, hey, I may not have done good, but look at all this publicity curiosity. So like Kyle, my buddy who owns it, he was like, man, he's like, I'm getting calls from people down there asking if I move down because there's a big giant sip shine truck driving all over. And I'll like driving downtown, like driving through Gatlinburg. Like I don't care. Like I'll drive that truck anywhere. Like I'll put it right in the middle of, right in front of Old Smoky, Sugarlands, all of them. and we actually got a video of a rolling shot, me going past Old Smoke or Sugarlands in the truck this year when they came down drinking and was like, Kyle was talking to me about how it all got started and stuff like that. And we did a rolling shot of it going across Sugarlands. That was pretty cool.
That is.
Yeah.
So
But
the one sponsor that I wanted to dive in before we jump off the show is NBT Marine.
yeah,
So talk
one that everyone wants to know.
Yeah, so everyone sees Mitch Elsey's boat on the NPFL tour with this 500-inch screen on the front of his boat. And it's not 500, it's 21 inches if I'm not mistaken.
21 inches.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you got the battleship up there, right?
Yep. So it's a really cool thing. So it's the only big screen on the market that's 100% heat proof. So like all of Garmin's 21s, 24s, you can't put in direct sunlight or they'll melt the motherboard. Mitch found a way to make it to where it won't melt. Everything stays good. And he also worked a program into it to where I can go in and eliminate color palettes. So like I can turn my gains way up on my Garmin, put all that fuzz in the screen, and then I can go in and eliminate color palettes and literally wipe all that fuzz out, make all my blobs look better. I was looking at fish on Pickwick at 120 foot, like legitimately popping up at 120, 130 foot. Like it's unbelievable. And it's cool because it actually works with all three brands now. So there's a way we can link with, like right now I have mine set up to where it links to my 8612, or you can buy the Garmin 8700 series networking. It's basically like a networking box and plug right into that. And it operates as its own Garmin unit. Or you can buy the Simrad box and plug into that. And I think you can run 6 screens off of that one where they act as individual units. Or you can plug right into an Apex unit. The only problem with Humminbird is that you can't use a touch screen yet. You have to use the remote.
Okay.
But yeah, so like I'm going to pick up my new boat here in a couple weeks. And I'm actually double stacking a 21. I'm double stacking a 16 over my 21 on the new boat. I run per, like you guys have probably seen my TikToks and stuff like that, where it's I run perspective and then perspective or forward on the main section of the screen, and then in the corner I have the other one, and below that I keep my mapping. Or so I'm on the new one. I'm going to run probably all mapping on the 16 and then I'm splitting the screen with perspective and forward because there's no need for 360 when you have perspective. Like I'll run perspective over 360 any day. You can see the fish swimming. The only reason why I put the second live scope unit on there was to see where they're sitting at in the water column.
Does this deal soak up a ton of juice or no?
Yeah, dude. Like I can't post if I do a post on NBT screens, it's minimum of like 10,000 views.
No,
I've done. Oh,
what I'm saying is like, how much battery power is this using? Is it using a lot?
So it uses the same amount of power as a 12-inch unit.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Wow.
That's not
No,
bad.
you're not using. So by going from a triple stack down to the single unit, I'm using less battery than most other anglers on the water. So like my batteries last 3 and 4 days at a time.
That makes sense.
And where can people go to find these?
You can get them on gorillafishing.com. We sell them. If you use LC10, my last name 10, you get 10% off the screen. You can call Power Implements or just call me. I'm actually getting ready to be a sales rep for them. So get a hold of me on any of my social media platforms and I'll get you a screen.
Okay. Yeah, I see that NBT. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, so NBT has one of the guys on the Elite Series running them. They got you on the NPFL running them. Do they have anyone else running their units?
Yeah, so there's me, Jacob Fouts, the Crappie Cowboy, and the Pro Crappie Circuit. And then I forget who's running them in the MLF. I forget. He doesn't. I think it's just a guy in the Invitationals who's running it. But
okay.
I know he's talked to a few other pro anglers for next year.
Okay,
Cool.
Possibly that are going to be working out a deal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty It's a pretty awesome thing he's got going.
No, I appreciate Mitch sending us all those 21-inch battleships.
Yeah, I appreciate those 21-inch battleships to test on our boats.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's crazy though because you literally can it's going to be one of the things that I think takes over the market. Like it's because it's so universal. Like you can literally just basically a plug and play unit almost with some of these brands, especially in the offshore industry with the Garmin units. Like you're being able to eliminate having. You can put just one big 21-inch screen. You can put it in direct sunlight versus everything else you can't.
Sure.
And you don't need, and you can literally like the 21-inch for Garmin or the 24 is like $15,000. And I think the networking box and the unit together is like $7,500. And I think it's $4,000 for the networking box and then $3,500 for the screen. So literally you're into it for half the price. You can double your screens for the same amount of price.
Yeah.
That's what you normally would.
Yeah, I was looking today and I was a little confused because Trey said they were working with all three. The website hasn't been updated, so it does show that it just works with Garmin units. So I'm glad to hear that it does work with all three. And I'm one of those like electronics dudes, so I switch stuff around all the time just because that's how I am. So I'm running an Active Target 2 this year, and having the option to maybe try out one of those, I might have to check that out.
Yeah, well,
20
so that was the thing was when we found out that it will work with Lowrance. Mitch almost wanted me to run the Lowrance setup for next year, and then he got into playing with it, and he's like, "Man," he goes, "I know you're not going to be happy with it because you like your target separation." He's like, "I can see that sometimes, like some of the things that Garmin has is better, some of the things that Active Target has better, but he goes, if you're comfortable with the Garmin units, like I'll let you keep running it, like that's fine." I'm like, "That's fine, man." I was like, "You just tell me what you want me to run, like I'll run whatever."
Yeah.
Like you just rig my boat however you want it, and it's done.
Well, he can rig my boat however he wants it to.
And if you guys want to go out and play with it too, just let me know. Like I'll make a trip down there. Like I'm probably going to come down and go see Justin with Fat Belly Tackle here pretty soon. That's right in South Carolina, or down by Charleston.
Yep.
So I'm probably going to go down that way. If you guys want to jump in the boat one day, go do some fishing. I mean, I'll be more than happy to take you guys out.
Absolutely, dude.
That'd be cool.
For those listening, go ahead. I
was just going to say it was the really cool thing was like I really got to play with it on St. Clair for like the first time, like in real thick grass and stuff. And with that big screen, it was cool because I could spread it out to where like I was looking at like 40 foot. And normally, like on a 12-inch screen, you can't see them fish really swimming in and out of the grass on forward. And with that big screen, I could separate it out to like 35, 40 foot. And I actually vertical jigged a couple of them fish that I caught doing it, like watching them swim in the grass and coming out. And I was like, this is a game changer. But it actually shocked me. Like I was having my partner come up and watch. I was like, "Dude, watch this." Boom, drop down and catch it. And I was like, "That's a big one." And I was like, drop yours down. There's another one right there. And he was like, "Boom." And dude, it was fun. Like it was like I had like just watching it, like seeing how much fish you actually miss on like a 12-inch screen compared to this big 21. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah. You can't stand on it though, right?
Yeah, you can.
That's why it's called a battleship.
Don't do that. But yeah,
there may or may not be a picture of somebody standing on one.
It's got a thicker screen on it than a normal Garmin unit or a normal unit. So Mitch was bouncing 1-ounce jigs off of it, found a way to make the glass replaceable. The units have a 2-year warranty on them. Basically, if you break something, you just send it back to him and he'll fix it.
Okay.
That's good.
Are these in any retailers or anything like that, or is it all online order right now?
Yeah, so there's a couple. So Jones Marine and Texarkana Power Implements, that's where I'm going to be based out of, down in Iowa, Louisiana. I'm working on DNR Sports Center and Leaders. My dad works for Leaders Marine. So I'm working on those two right now. And then there's going to be a few other. There's one in North Carolina that we're working on. A guy in the league actually owns a marina over in North Carolina. And then I'm actually in the process of talking to Calabogie Skiff Company too about making them an OEM option on their boats.
Oh, nice.
So it definitely sounds like
there's a lot of cool things.
It sounds like the next big thing.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, so that's a funny story behind that name. So I don't know if you talked to my wife at all when you were at Santee. It was actually supposed to stand for Northwestern or Northeastern something. And I was always wondering, I meant to ask him, I was like, what does the NBT stand for? Is it like my wife says, keeps saying the next big thing. And he's like, Mitch's face lit up. He's like, dude, he goes, I didn't even think of that, but that's what we're going to start calling it. He goes, your wife's going to get all the credit for that. And he's like, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
So now we call it the next big thing.
So now she gets all those royalties. I like it.
yeah, not royalties. I wish. But, they're getting ready to release. We just finished up the last prototype, fixed a bunch of stuff, all the stuff that I broke on it. I was the guy that basically would go and break everything because running that big water and stuff, I'm really putting them to the test. And I think it was just a couple little things. Like it was nothing major, but we found like the brackets need to be changed a little bit, and just a couple little things. And now the new one, I put it on my boat, and I ran in 4-footers on St. Clair and Traverse last weekend, and dude, it was solid. Like I tried to break it, and I couldn't break it.
Well, that's what this whole deal is about, is, putting that stuff on the market for the anglers before it comes out to the consumers, and making sure that they break everything that needs to be broken on it so they can take it back to the drawing table. So,
exactly.
Before we jump off the show, Mitch, we want to give you an opportunity to plug like all your socials, and all your sponsors and those who are able to support you to make your dream happen. So, before we do that, Ben, Pete, do you guys got anything for Mitch?
No.
Yeah. Let everyone know where they can find you, and let's talk about who's supporting you through this journey.
So all of my social medias are all Mitch Elsey Fishing. It's on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are all the same. And all my sponsors, man, I really work with a lot of companies. So Sip Shine is my title sponsor. They make moonshine, and then it's Coyote Whiskey and Gannett Peak Whiskey, who are the other two affiliated companies with them. They own those two. So I also want to thank Fisk Sunglasses, Power Implements. Power Implements is my boat dealer, and all my electronics other than NBT, or I guess NBT now too. Now they sell them there. NBT Marine, Grandmaster Concrete, Gorilla Fishing. If you guys are looking for all your mom and pop shop tackle, go to gorillafishing.com. It's GUERILLA fishing. Use LC10, save 10% off. We have basically every product I'm sponsored by is on the site. So if you use that discount code, you'll get all them products at cheaper. Pride rods, 6-gill reels. So I think that's about it.
I hope I have that many people to thank in the future. Mitch Elsey, we appreciate you jumping on the show. Ben, Pete, anything for Mitch?
No, man, I appreciate you taking some time to come talk to us and let us know, your journey to where you are today. And we look forward to seeing you down there at Lanier and seeing how the rest of your season goes. Hopefully, like you said, that you got out of that little bit of a funk that anybody that fishes tournaments gets in from time to time. Yeah. I'm in one this year terribly, so I totally feel you. But yeah, man, I just appreciate you coming on. Everybody listening, make sure you go check out Mitch Elsey Fishing. His name's in the video. If it's not, I'll have links to all. If you're not watching the video, if you're getting us on Apple, Spotify, whatever it is, I'll have all his socials linked down below in the description. Make sure you click on those, give him a follow, let them know you found us here. And that's really all I have. Thanks for coming on.
I think you guys.
Yeah, I just want to thank you.
Oh, I was going to say you guys cover it all, and I appreciate you coming on, Mitch, and I'll turn the floor back over to you.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and it's a really cool opportunity. It's the first podcast I've done, so it was awesome to be on here with you guys.
It was great to hear your journey. We're looking forward to the next big thing being Saginaw Bay. Good luck there, and we'll see you. We'll see the results, and hopefully you hoist one of those big shields up, man. Appreciate you, Mitch.
That's what I'm hoping for. Thank you.
All right, bud.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.